I think there are about 4 stories lumped into one in this particular story. I think those individual stories are put together are well highlighted by the right that you read out.
Yeah.
If you, for example, you talked about Malami and the governors, I think we have to wait for what the court will decide on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Although over the weekend, the APC governors and the party chairman met and had a lot of deliberations. They've been talking, and I think the decision again is for the president to reconsider his decision on this new Naira policy. So that's at the level of the party. Now, for the what's it called now? For Femi Falana or FAN writing to the CBN demanding for details of Naira, the new Naira print and the way it has been distributed. I think we also added that look, details should be provided of people who had withdrawn more than 100,000 Naira. This has been my position from day one, especially when the issue of the cash crunch started. That look, the easiest way to assuage the minds of Nigerians, the easiest way to douse tension amongst Nigerians is for the CBN to be open about what it's doing. And the first stage of openness would be for the CBN to say, hey, this exactly is how much we printed in the new Naira note, this is how we have distributed it, and that would at least give some assurance to Nigerians that look, something is not going under, something is not being done from the back end and all of that. But I support Femi Falana as a concerned Nigerian. I support what he's demanding for. That's part of accountability. But again, I doubt if anything is going to come out from his demand. I doubt if we're going to get anything from the CBN on this. Because again, this thing has lingered for too long. And in the midst of all of this confusion, all of this back and forth, Nigerians are suffering, as I think. The situation is getting more, tense out there. Look at what happened in Shagamu yesterday. Although I think reports have said that some of those miscreants have been arrested. But again, if there wasn't any destruction in cash supply, there wouldn't have been incidents like that. So I just hope that everybody involved in this will become more responsible. They understand Nigerians are going through a lot for years, and this is not the time to compound issues for them. And that we do all that is needed for them to get their lives back to normal. I'm talking about ordinary Nigerians. I'm talking about Nigerians who are not politicians. I'm talking about Nigerians who are not interested in vote buying. Not Nigerians who want to wake up daily, go through their normal struggles of life, live a normal life, and then get things done properly. So again, we have a date to the Supreme Court tomorrow. With Femi Falana stand, to question, I don't know what is going to come out of that. And then for the APC, I think at the party level they continue to talk. But I think most importantly we should just keep our fingers crossed and see what happens at the Supreme Court tomorrow.
Right. So let's just look at the last rider, the statement that was made by Osuntokun, I believe the Director General of the Obidati presidential campaign. He had something to say about Nasir El-Rufai's position on all of this. And, according to the papers, let me read that particular aspect of the report to you. The Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has virtually declared the Republic of Kaduna State and has continued to advance on his treasonable trajectory without being called to order, the Labour Party has observed. The party also said that if El-Rufai had responded with same measure of alacrity he has demonstrated on the Naira swap controversy to deal with the inter-ethnic sectarian crisis that has claimed thousands of lives in his state, it would have been averted. So basically, Osuntokun is saying if this was the same energy that you put towards the issues going on in your state, maybe a resolution would have been in sight. What do you think about that?
I know when politicians try to play politics with everything, and from their statements you can just understand that it's just merely playing politics. Osuntokun has always maintained this position of, this is feasible felony, whatever the government of Kaduna said is feasible felony and all these kind of things. Again, I wouldn't want to dwell too much on that. I honestly, I know why I wouldn't want to go so much wasting time on all of those kind of comments. So when politicians make statements like this, I don't really want to bother myself with it. Because the same politicians, you may wake up tomorrow and find that they are taking a different position depending on the political deal they think is going to come from an issue. So they are not stable with their statements. It them, and they're always going to take advantage of situations like this.
Right.
Again, I would say that everybody should keep calm, to keep our fingers crossed, and wait for what is going to come out of the Supreme Court tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much. Well, that's it for the major story on the headline for Guardian, or should I say the major headline on the Guardian newspaper. So let's move to another headline here. It's illegal to close varsities for polls, says Afe Babalola. Let's go and check this story out. The founder and chancellor of Afe Babalola University, Abuad Ado-Ekiti, Chief Afe Babalola, has condemned the federal government's decision to close all universities in the country during the general election. So, Afuad, as you know, it was announced that all students or all schools be closed down February 22 to March 14 until the general elections and the state elections are concluded. Well, this decision, very obviously from this report, does not sit very well with Afe Babalola. He says that it is not within the rights, of the NUC, that is the National University Commission, to close down activities in the universities because of the polls. Do you agree with this particular position that is being held by the Chancellor of Abuad Afe Babalola?
The situation of Nigeria now and the peculiarity of Nigeria at this time is the reason why some of us thought that it was a bit reasonable to have closed down the universities to allow these students their parents during the polls. Ordinarily, there's no reason why there can't be fully units, even in the university environment, for students who are already 18 years and above to cast their vote. But remember, that was the time that a lot of students were at home, they registered at home, and they returned when CVCs were being distributed. So I don't think there was an idea of having even thought about creating polling units in the university environment for students who are 18 years and above. And I'm sure a lot of them are even more than 18 years to cast their vote. I understand where Afebara is coming from, the idea of why do you have to close the university because they are holding elections. But again, it's a different scenario stage. This is Nigeria. We know that there's tension in the land. We know the level of insecurity. There are also fears, about what the outcomes of the elections will be, and that look, whether to keep these students safe with their parents. And then after the polls, they can all return to school when we are all sorted and everything is fine. So I think it's just good with the peculiarities of Nigeria at this time that there's a bit of tension in the land and it's not safe to have these students back home with their parents in the elections.
Right. Well, as far as Fuad has said, in an ideal situation, there's nothing that stops academic activities from running and the election running as well. But because of the peculiarity of our cities, of our country, and we can see that maybe that was not such a bad decision that was made by the NUC regarding closing down activities temporarily.
There's no reason why we shouldn't have. Sorry, Sage.
Yes,
there's no reason why we shouldn't have polling units in the
universities, right?
Okay,
well,
there's no reason why we can't have polling units. The students can wake up, vote, and then, especially for those even with these campuses. But again, it is what it is. Let's just go with the elections.
Right. Anyways, page 3 of the Guardian newspaper is where you will get more details. Moving on now, let's look at this headline here. Court halts INEC's logistic deal with MC Oluomo's team. That is the headline. Let's look at the story. Justice Chukwuejeku Aneke of the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos yesterday granted an order of interlocutory injunction restraining the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC from engaging the services of Musliu Akisoya aka Oluomo's led Lagos State Parks Management Committee or any of his commercial bus drivers to move election materials and personnel for this year's general election in the state. So, just for the sake of refreshing people's memories, or if there are people who don't really understand this follow-up story, the INEC Resident Electoral Commission in Lagos State, I believe Olusegun Agbaje, during a meeting, I think, I don't know those who were present at the meeting, but basically he, referenced that the NURCW in Lagos State and I think the transportation workers in Lagos State, their activities had been banned, and because of that, they might need to employ the services of MC Oluomo and his team. And of course, that there were a lot of parties who did not stand for this at all. The PDP, for example, said that there's absolutely no way MC Oluomo is going to carry out this particular, should I say, duty. And they kept referencing, he's a chieftain in the other of the APC of some kind, and so because of that, they don't think that they're okay with INEC engaging the services of MC Oluomo, and now the court has backed this particular, should I say, how the PDP feels and other parties how they feel about this, as they have said that MC Oluomo, the PAC's management garages, the group, let me call them that, will not be transporting personnel or materials for the 2023 general election. So I'm not going to, of course, ask you that. What do you think about the decision of the court? Because we're not supposed to think anything of it. But
the case is adjourned till tomorrow, anyway.
Yeah.
If you read the story further, the case is adjourned till tomorrow. So since it's a case in court, I don't think we should talk about that particular issue. And again, I think the issue with the Labour Party basically is that, look, MC Oluomo, who is the chairman of the Lagos State Management and Garage, is politically exposed. He's the chieftain of the institution, and they don't trust him handling INEC materials in terms of logistics and distribution. So that's the point they are putting before the court. Like I said, the cases are done till tomorrow, and I would think that in one of the cases we have to wait to see what the decision of the court will be on it.
All right, then, you can get more information on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on now, another headline here. Naira swap, slow takeoff in Kaduna as traders battle mobile transfer, insist on cash. The rider to this, marketers, customers lament dilemma while vegetables, fruit perish. Some traders in Kaduna Market and Metropolis have continued to reject interbank transfers, citing difficulties in withdrawing cash from banks. Another reason the traders gave was that local farmers in villages who sell goods to them were not accepting transfer, hence the need to pay cash to purchase goods. So Fuad, we can already see here that the economy there is starting to suffer, especially for small medium enterprises and those in the agrarian sector in Kaduna State. They're saying that their fruits, their vegetables are perishing. The marketers, the customers, they're lamenting this particular issue because those who sell these goods are refusing to involve themselves in the e-payments that the government is trying to push forward. And well, like we've always said for a while now, the majority of these people are unbanked, and because of that, them involving themselves or embracing this e-payment might be a tad bit difficult, especially within the time frame that is being set by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So Fuad, what do we say about what is going on in Kaduna State and how very sluggish they are to aligning themselves with this change that is happening in our financial system?
Change in the financial system, there's a disruption. It's not a change, it's a disruption because again, whatever, if you read that report, it also clearly tells you why it's for rural dwellers and for local farmers and for people with small business to rely solely on transfer. Look at what you said. I mean, if you even transfer this money to account,
you can't get cash.
You even get cash out to go and do other transactions in the process. So the preferred get the cash. That's what we're saying. And look, something we all have done here is find money to bank account and all of that. There are still some levels of transactions that they will need the cash. They will need cash to do. And they can't get the cash out, and so they just look, getting the cash or nothing. I don't want to go through the hassle of the banks and all of that. Things haven't been Lagos. I can tell you that all of yesterday I tried doing transfers. I've not been able to get anything. I'm thinking of going to the bank today to go and do my transaction. I don't know how that is going to go with me because of the stress and the issues that I have.
Right. Well, that might take the whole day. Yes, I'm with you. That might take the whole day. I wish you best of luck with what maybe the Holy Spirit PVP, because the queues at the banks. There's a lot. As early as 4 a.m. people are already queuing. I mean, on my way to work as early as 5:30, people are already queuing at the bank using their slippers to, keep their space so they can sit for a little bit. So I don't know how getting into the bank and performing any transaction, I don't know how easy that is going to be. But anyways, you can get that on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. So let's look at, we have about 2 more stories here. Page 6, or well, the front page, election, live up to expectation, Commonwealth observers tell INEC. We can find that on page 6. Riders to this particular headline, Mbeki leads Commonwealth delegations to 10 states, pledges neutrality. We will not disappoint Nigerians, says Yakubu. NDI, RII deploys observers to 20 states. US issues advisory to citizens in Nigeria on possible violence. Military, intelligence community ready for election. Defense headquarters assures. NNPC provides 1.8 billion litres of petrol as Nigerians goes to poll. Akeredolu insists on Tinubu, says push for Southern presidency based on fairness, equality. Pandef endorsement of Obi sacrosanct. So these are the riders to this particular story. 4 days to the presidential election, the Independent National Electoral Commission has reiterated the commitment of the electoral body to conducting a free, fair and credible exercise, as INEC chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu re-echoed this yesterday when he received the Commonwealth Observer Mission to Nigeria in his office. So this observation is something that I really don't have a deep understanding of the observers, foreign observers, who come in to monitor election and what have you. I've always been curious as to the information that they gather regarding how the election goes. What is this information used for? Is it what they use to issue advisories about the next election that might happen, or is this a way how they determine the kind of assistance that they might need to render? For what?
It's not the foreign observer. Well, it's a tradition. It's an electoral tradition. I think generally happens all over the world. It's a very common word for an observer. Yes.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear you. Maybe we should try to get you back. Let's try to get you back on the line. Let's try to get Fuad back on the line. This would only take a while. So those are the riders to the particular story. With regards to issues about fuel, because INEC did mention that the fuel scarcity might impede the credibility of the polls, or might affect how the polls are going to go. They also complained about cash, but this rider here is telling us that the NNPC has provided 1.8 billion litres of petrol, so that might not necessarily be a problem anymore, as the NNPC has helped them to deal with that particular issue. So Fuad, do we have you back now?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, perfect. So let's talk about the riders then. The Commonwealth delegates have been deployed to 10 states. They've, assured that neutrality is going to be what we would experience during the polls. And also military intelligence community, they say that they're ready for the election. And I think that this is important, especially because of the protests that we have seen in different states with military, presence, or that would somehow help, put some sort of organization to how the polls turn out.
Well, again, for the foreign observers, the Commonwealth observers, that's a tradition during election cycle like this. Foreign observers are supposed to come, observe, and of course take notes. Of course, physically just observe what is happening, and at the end of the day, issue statements on how the elections have been conducted. Nothing more than that. Beyond the foreign observers, I think the most important thing is for Nigeria to get ready for this election. So INEC to do the right thing, and then, of course, give us a free, fair, credible election. The observers are just, like the word observe, they're just here to observe. And then, of course, take their own notes, and then, of course, issue statements at the end of the election. So I think that's just where it ends. They're just observers, nothing more than that. The other one is the issue of logistics. Well, it's good that NNPC has provided what is needed to INEC. INEC was supposed to get their cash supply from the CBN today. We don't have any information yet on that, but hopefully I'm sure that will be sorted too. But I think somehow we are all ready for this election. If not for the issue of cash crunch and the disruption in the monetary policy that we have, I think we'll just say, look, Nigerians are ready to cast their vote. But again, we have to push on. The transition must go on. And I think at the end of the day, Nigeria will win.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad. Page 6 of the Guardian newspaper is where you'll find more details on that particular headline. Maybe we'll talk about this during the global view, but we see here new magnitude 6.4 earthquake rocks Turkey. Unfortunate for Turkey. We do have global view at 9:45, so hopefully this is a conversation that we're going to have, but just for the sake of the fact that it's on the front page, new magnitude 6.4 earthquake rocks Turkey. This is with a cumulative death toll of the initial 7.4 magnitude that hit Turkey and Syria February 6th, I believe, that led to 44,000 people being dead. And I'm sure rescue workers are still doing everything they can to see if they can find survivors. We don't know how tenable that is, but because it's been a few days. So there's been another earthquake in Turkey. And like I said, we might talk about that on Global View at 9:45. Well, that's it for the Guardian newspaper. Moving on right now, we do have the Punch newspaper before us. I'm trying to get Fuad back on the line, but whilst we're doing that, let's still look at the front pages of the different newspapers that we have before us. And right now we're going to be looking specifically at the Punch newspaper. So we do have here Naira chaos grounds economy, just 4 days to polls. Banks ration 200 Naira note, Nigerians lament hardship. Protesters race to Ogun banks, vandalize local government office. That is the headline. We do see here chaos trailing the cash scarcity has assumed a worrisome dimension, with the organized private sector raising the alarm that the crisis has grounded the economy. Now, members of the organized private sector, including the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nigerian Employers Consultative Forum, Nigeria Economic Summit Group, Nigerian Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, and the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists have spoken in separate interviews with the Punch on Monday. So, Fuad, the complaint is that the private sector is not having a field day right now, and they've given us a list of all the different sectors, or all of the stakeholders in the private sector that have complained about how, the private sector is going through a difficult situation right now. Do you think that this is just a temporary inconvenience for the benefits that might follow this situation at the end of the day?
The funny thing is that the business sector does not work this way. Politics, yes. For politicians, for people who think that there's anything to gain politically from this, that narrative may sell easily with them. But if you understand business and the time value that comes with the way people run businesses, you understand that, look, as this continues to drag, businesses will continue to suffer, and luckily these are stakeholders. This is not Milan FM saying this. These are stakeholders. These are people in businesses. These are associations with the right data to work with, saying that, look, this implementation of this policy, again, not the policy now, but the implementation of the policy is making businesses suffer. And the thing about businesses suffering is that the recovery time is always not easy. It's easy to destroy things, like they say, but to rebuild it may be a bit difficult. So I think that something has to be done quickly, really, to save the situation, because again, just imagine when you slide into a recession. To come out of recession is not always easy, because you have to now put a whole lot of things in place and get a lot of things done, and then it becomes extremely difficult, especially when it's a policy that is bringing a needless situation, an avoidable situation. It's not like, it's a natural disaster, it's something that we can't avoid or something. This is something that could have been taught properly, that could have been handled better. I think this policy could have been handled better, and I think the CBN needs to wake up. They need to realize that something has to be done, and I think the presidency also has to realize that, look, this policy is not working and they need to do something else about it.
Thank you very much, Fuad. Page 2 of the Punch newspaper is where you'll get more information regarding that particular headline. So let's move on now. We do have a headline here. Petrol rose by 55% to 205 Naira per litre in January. Petrol rose by 55%. The price, 257 Naira per litre in January, and it's the National Bureau of Statistics that is telling us this. Yes. So many Nigerians are still paying far above the 185 per litre approved pump price of petrol amid fuel scarcity, a report of the National Bureau of Statistics has indicated. The NBS said that the Premium Motor Spirits Price Watch for January stated that on the average, Nigerians paid the sum of 257.12 per litre for the product, and this noted the average price in January 2023 was an annual increase of 54.52% and a monthly increase of 24.70%. The question can never change. The question is still, this is a regulated sector. There is a fixed price, 185.
There's supposed to be a regulated price.
Exactly. And then MBS is telling us that on average, Nigerians pay 257 Naira for a product whose price is pegged at 185 naira. I beg your pardon.
Because the assumption is that we are paying subsidy to keep it regulated.
And at least they said that subsidy will be removed in June.
In June,
the
yeah.
Minister of Finance says we'll start removing slowly.
So we are still paying subsidy. Yeah.
So that means that for now
We are still paying
fully
subsidy.
paying subsidy. So why are we and then Nigerians on the average paying 257 naira for this particular product? I don't know if it's rhetorical.
No, it's a question that the thing is that it is the officials in NNPC that should answer that question. I think the last time that the NNPC decided to talk to Nigerians was when the GMD, Millie Carey, said that there was a glitch and that they were working on the glitch and that Nigerians should be patient, that look, you should give them 7 days, although he's not going to assure Nigerians that the queues were going to end, but it's going to get better. Nigerians should see them as the same family and all of that. See, my take on this is to say that, look, more than ever before, we need a president, a new president. We need a new administration that won't be ready to clean the wrath and the mess in the oil sector. Honestly, there's a lot of rot in that sector. There's a lot of corruption going on in that sector. There's a lot of mess in that sector. And one of the things I thought that the present administration, when they came in 2015, would have been able to do in the minimum, would have been able to clean the rot and the mess in the sector, but unfortunately it is still there, and of course it is evidenced by the chaos and the confusion that we have in that sector. Again, like you said, it's supposed to be a regulated sector. Nigerians are supposed to buy that product at a regulated price, and so we need to ask ourselves. The NBS is saying 200 and something. I've been buying in the last 1 month, Sage, for around 250, 300 naira per liter, because again, I can't afford to go and queue up for 4 or 5 hours. Look, the kind of job we do means you have to be up and do. You have to be out there doing what you need to do. So, and that's even in Lagos. Some people will tell you that if you go outside of Lagos, go into some other parts of the country, people buy as high as 400 naira, 450 per liter. And so we ask ourselves, are we still paying subsidy? What is happening exactly in that system? But we can only get answers to those questions when there's accountability. Unfortunately, that is not the situation as far as the NNPC is concerned with the management of our oil sector. And of course, it would have to require us getting a leader who is really, really ready to clear the mess in the oil sector. We hope that we're going to get that leader this time.
I'm afraid for what would happen in June, because if on the average Nigerians are already paying 257, at least let's work with the figures of the NBS. By the time subsidy is removed in June, what are we looking at? And remember, Ip Man said earlier that you may or may not be paying 800 naira per liter
once
subsidy is removed. And I don't think this is a reality Nigerians are ready to accept.
Look, Sage, it's a very simple thing. Again, we've discussed the issue of subsidy severally and said, look, it's not a bad thing. It's not. Look, all over the world, people subsidize things for their people, agricultural products, schooling. Subsidy is just a way of alleviating, cost of things for ordinary people, and all of that, The idea of free education, for example, is a form of subsidy, and all of that. So it's not a bad thing. But the oil sector in Nigeria has made subsidy as such a demon that everybody wants to run away from. And let us say we have accepted that look, it has become a problem. The reason for subsidy is simple, Sage. It is because we are not refining locally, basically, and we have to import. And if we were to buy at international price, means that, look, it will be determined by a lot of factors, which means that Nigerians would have to pay as high as 500 naira. I think the last time NNPC said that, look, they were subsidizing to a tune of about, 200 naira, that we would probably have been buying at maybe 350, 400, if not for subsidy. So, until we fix our refineries, until we do the right thing, refine locally and all of that. And that's why I'm a bit worried that we are approaching this election to elect a new president without resolving the issues of subsidy with this presidential candidate and what they're going to do. I think the consensus amongst all of them is that, look, subsidy has to go. But the question is, what should happen before subsidy goes? But unfortunately, the Naira swap thing has brought its own distractions. We've taken our eyes off the ball. it's a complete distraction, because now we are going to elect a new leader in the next 4 years, in the next 4 days, without resolving a lot of the issues and mysteries around subsidy and the oil sector. So it's a big risk that we're taking now.
Well, let's wait and see what measures we put in place to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal in June. Let's
just hanging on hope. Right, it's just hope.
That's all we have to offer for now. Hope. That's all we can offer the people.
Unfortunately.
Well, that's all we have with regards to this particular story here. Page 9 of the Punch newspaper is where you will get more information. Page 8, latest poll puts Tinubu ahead of all. Well, I guess we all know that these polls they use a control group, sometimes 13,000 people of the over 200 million people, and the report is saying that the latest poll that was done puts Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the APC
I like the fact that you quickly pointed out that, look, these polls are done using controlled groups, and if you look at the population sample, you just know that
10,000, 13,000.
That cannot be indicative of what is going to eventually happen at the polls. All the polls basically have just been a bit of random sampling, and if you have a control group, again, it's subjective. It's not completely objective. The results of this poll. So I think we have 4 days to really know what Nigerians want for themselves.
Right. Well, I guess we're going to find out after the elections 4 days from now. Moving on, we are reading the Vanguard newspaper right this very moment. Headline here, the major headline on the Vanguard newspaper: Naira redesign mops up 1.8 trillion naira from currency outside banks. The rider, analysts hint of inflation backlash. Relief as banks disburse old 200 naira note. Old 500, 1,000 expired on February 10, says the CBN. POS agents lament the situation. So let's look at this particular story so that we can start addressing the headlines one after the other. So as seen here on page 5, the implementation of the Naira redesign and withdrawal of old banknotes by the CBN has sucked in about 1.81 trillion from the currency outside the banks. Though this development is in line with the policy plan of the Apex Bank, financial experts have, however, indicated that the development may lead to a further rise in inflation and contraction of the nation's economy in the first quarter of the year 2023. So let's deal with these riders one after the other. Initially, when this policy came up, I do remember that the CBN said there's too much money outside the bank vault. We need to ensure proper circulation, let it go through the bank vault, and to a large extent the CBN has recorded success. 1.8 trillion has been sucked up, but financial experts are saying as much as you're celebrating this victory, there might be some backlash, and it would have something to do with the inflation. We might suffer a further increase in the inflation in the first quarter of 2023. I think inflation is about 21.84%. We had a conversation about this. So I don't know
about 20%.
If these financial experts are advising or projecting that there might be a further increase in inflation because of this particular policy, though success has been recorded,
in terms of mopping up
how do we prepare for what is to come if the projections of these experts are anything to go by?
The thing again is that it's about timing, and that I think that we would only get to a complete resolution of all of these issues after the elections. Whether we like it or not, this policy has been heavily politicized, and I think that all points of reason, all points of proper thinking about this policy has fallen flat on the face, because again there's too much politics that's been played with this policy. The experts will say what they want to say, but of course it depends on the outlook of those that want to implement this policy and what they are saying that we are not saying. Again, there's a lot that is going on that we are not privy to. We are not informed about. So again, so that I don't sound like a broken record, I think I'm more interested in getting what is going to come out from the Supreme Court tomorrow on this policy, and see what the reaction of the government will be on it. Again, the experts are already warning us. There was a time they talked about a CBN-induced recession from this same policy. Here again, experts are saying that, look, we may be heading towards rising inflation if this issue is not resolved very, very fast. And again, other businesses are also talking, experts are saying the same thing. So in the business community, it seems to be a unanimous opinion on this. Everybody seems to be on the same page on the fact that, look, this is a policy that is hurting business, especially small scale businesses, especially all of that. So And the reality is that even the big businesses rely on
the small business,
because it's a cycle. If they are doing well, it trickles down. The big ones trickles down. Then it's a cycle. It goes on and on and on. So the big businesses cannot exist in isolation without the small businesses running, side by side. So we can as well just agree that this is a policy that is hurting the economy of the country, and I think something has to be done very, very fast about it.
A review of the implementation process maybe, and something reasonable comes out of it. All right.
Review implementation means sometimes you can go back, re-strategize, review completely. When you say, look, okay, let's go back to status quo, let's rethink it again, and then
re-implement,
and then everybody's fine and we move on. I think what Nigerians just want is an access to their cash. Basically, let cash be available to Nigerians. Simple.
Right. Well, old 500 1,000 expired on February 10, says CBN. I think they're just reiterating that you can go and redeem your old notes at the Central Bank of Nigeria. So if you still have old notes on you, go to the CBN. I think there's one in each state. Go to the CBN and
there are processes listed.
You go to the CBN website, you fill a form. There's personal information of yours, or should I say banking information of yours, that you have to provide. It may or may not take a duration of 4 weeks, according to them, for the whole process to be complete. And you're not going to be handed physical cash. It will be paid into your bank account. So that's more or less an encapsulation of what that process is like. POS agents laments situation. POS agents, the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN, lamented the impact of the sharp decline in its members, commonly referred to as POS agents. Aside from the difficulty, some are not doing POS again. Like their members were not interested in the business anymore.
In fact, the thing is that if you had to, speak with some of them and they tell you what they have to go through to get access to cash, and there's a way people now look at them as very devilish people, bad people.
Let me read this.
What they are saying.
Yeah, there's a quote here regarding that. As a matter of fact, I'm reading verbatim now. Our people have become target of the protest, so we are going through a lot of issues. End quote.
Because of the level of misinformation and disinformation going on, everybody seems to want to blame the POS operators. In fact, people are even blaming the banks. Look at what happened in Shagamu yesterday.
The bank's torched.
Why do you have to burn down the bank? This is, again, you ask yourself, is it that and that's why you have to be careful the kind of narrative we push out there. Because again, some people are already pushing out the narrative that the POS operators are the one, frustrating the entire process, and that's why some of them have decided to close shop for fear of being attacked. Because again, there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation going on out there about this policy. The reality is that, look, this policy was aimed at tackling a number of things, but unfortunately, the implementation has been faulty. And then we all have to go through this pain, needless pain, and I think again that it's just about the policy being relooked again and then reviewed, and then of course Nigerians get back to normal.
All right, then at page 5 is where you're going to find this particular information. So let's move on. Court restrains INEC from engaging MC Oluomo Park Committee. I think we spoke about that already. We're going to wait for what happens tomorrow. All right. So page 9, elections. U.S. Embassy alerts citizens in Nigeria on possible protests. So as always, we always get these advisories about pre and post election.
For US, they're always quick to
they're always telling us do something about this, make protection available for people and materials. But let's actually look through this. The United States Embassy in Nigeria has alerted its citizens in the country on possible protests and restricted movement on February 25 and March 11, being the day for the Presidential and National Assembly, as well as governorship and state assembly elections. In a notice on its website, the embassy advises nationals to avoid rallies as they can turn violent with little or no notice. So they're even speaking to their people in the country. They're not speaking to Nigerians. They're speaking to their people. If you can, please avoid rallies. Stay away from this whole process. There's a possibility that you might see some violence. There's a possibility. They're not saying it will happen.
It's an advisory from the US to their citizens here in Nigeria. I think what can make of this particular statement by the US to their citizens that look, they do this. It's a thing that happens every time. When they think they need to talk to their people about protecting themselves in different parts of the world. But I think that we are going to be civil about this. We're going to be peaceful about this. I think we're probably going to disappoint them, and that the polls will happen without violence. Yeah, I think that the world will be shocked by what Nigerians will do.
Yes.
Come February 25 and March 11. We behave ourselves.
Page 9 of the Punch of the Vanguard, I beg your pardon, the Vanguard newspaper, page 9 is where you'll get more details. So let's move on. Alleged 3 billion naira fraud, court grants Ali Bello, 3 others 500 million naira bail. Let's read the story here. Justice Obara Egwatu of the Federal High Court Abuja yesterday granted Ali Bello and 3 others bail in alleged 3 billion fraud suit against them by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. So this is Yahaya Bello's nephew.
Yeah.
Kogi State Governor Ali Bello. He's going through. He's in court for fraud himself.
He's granted bail. The case is still in court.
And so he has been granted bail 500 million. So I mean that's the bail is not new.
So the case continues.
The case continues. Yeah, I'll move on from that. It is what it is. So there's another story here. Tinubu leads in closing poll as Obi Atiku trail. Okay, so it's another poll that
let's see the poll. What's the poll about?
Tinubu leads in closing poll as Obi Atiku trail. Let's go to page 26 of the Vanguard newspaper. Maybe we can look through this and
the
see
posters, who are the people behind the poll?
Who did they use for this? What part?
And who are the people behind the polls?
Alright, I'm trying to match the page. I don't know if
why the papers keep
the pages
putting
are not
stories on the wrong page.
Pages are not. It's not commensurate with it. It will be somewhere in here.
Okay,
I will find it. We'll find it, but we don't see it. It's not in the paper, or at least it's not on the page that it's supposed to be. So that's it for the Vanguard newspaper. Very briefly, we have less than 5 minutes. Let's look through the New Telegraph newspaper. And the headline here: Wike sticks to his guns, favors Atiku over presidential ticket, Ayu Palava, but won't dump PDP for APC. And this is me reading the riders to you, by the way. Confusion in Benue as PDP splits over Atiku Obi. The North will support Atiku, AFC chieftain. I'll brief my successor from my party on Nigeria's ties with Comoros, says Buhari. ADC endorses Obi as Pandef re-emphasizes its support. So that is the major headline here on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's look at it here. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has declared that he would always vote for the unity of the country, even as he also insisted that he will never dump the People's Democratic Party for the All Progressive Congress, despite his stance on zoning the presidency to the south. So he's still in the PDP. I mean, I think he has gotten a court injunction. He can't be expelled from the PDP for now. But as much as he's showing his loyalty to the party, he's still talking about Tinubu as the man for the job. I'm trying to be very careful of my choice of words. How do we reconcile this situation? 4 days to the polls, he's still a very strong member of the PDP, and he's still saying, I favor Tinubu. I still maintain my position.
He's not being explicit with what he wants. Because again, what we're seeing is just more body language, indirect talks and comments. But the reality is that, like we've predicted, over and over again, that the G5 was not going to have a unanimous, a joint decision on a preferred presidential candidate, and that has happened. Basically, Wike's body language seems to be tilting towards Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Of course, the way he received him in Rivers State and some of the things he said. But like I said, it's not explicit. It's not something direct. It's not coming out direct about it.
How about if I read this, what he said to you? Maybe that might be seen as some sort of direct position. So he says, I am not a member of APC and I will not be. But they have made me recognize that they are the heroes of this country. The governors came out to say, look, for the unity of this country, the presidency should go to the south. Is that as direct as it can be?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not the only southerner on the polls. Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party is a southerner, so it's still an open thing. That statement cannot be taken as a direct endorsement of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because again, Peter Obi is also from the south. So if Wike is insisting that the next president must come from the south, it means that he either favors Asiwaju or Mr. Peter Obi. So we leave it at that. But again, like I said, his body language seems to be tilting more towards Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Samuel Otom is also a member of the G5, in a town hall meeting in Benue State, clearly said that, look, I'm endorsing Mr. Peter Obi all my associate, business associates, political associates, community leaders and all of that should vote for and work for Mr. Peter Obi. So the G5 is splitted. Sheyi Makinde received Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu last week. It was all looking good amongst them, but again, one wonders what the game is going to be, because again, the APC has a gubernatorial candidate in your state, and Sheyi Makinde is running for a second term. Teslim Folarin is breathing down his neck. It's going to be a tough one in your state. Ogbuahi somehow seems to have realigned himself with Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. Somehow, Ikpeazu somehow too is quietly realigning with Atiku from the information we are getting. So again, the G5 is not together on this particular issue. But again, the ultimate thing is for us to wait to see what happens at the polls.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fuad Said. I think that's all we can take for Trends in the Papers this morning. Thank you very much for listening. Not to worry. In a few minutes, we'll be back for Mainland Focus, where you get to pick what story, or where we get to pick two major headlines, and then we have a conversation around it. Sage Babalola is my name. You're still listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't go anywhere.